Hi everyone, my name's Leanne and today I'm going to be bringing you a bit of a discussion video around proof editions of books and what you can, can't, could and should do with them. I think this video will be interesting for people from a few different kinds of perspectives. So first of all, if you are interested in learning a bit more about the publishing industry and what exactly proofs are and what they are for, if you are a book blogger, booktuber, influencer, whichever word you want to use to define yourself, and you have started to get proof editions of books and you or you've been doing it for a while and you don't really know what you're allowed and what you're not allowed to do with them. Or if you are someone who simply watches a lot of booktube or reads a lot of book blogs and it doesn't seem exactly clear why people are receiving what seems like an abundance of free books for no apparent reason. Hopefully I can break down some of the reasoning why booktubers get sent free books. Very quickly, I will just explain what proofs are for people who are coming at this video from that perspective before I get into talking about what you can and can't do with proofs. So while yes, people like booktubers are often sent finished, completed editions of books, we will also often be sent early editions of books, which are proofs. And proofs are not finalized. They are not the finished product. They don't have the finished text in them. But the reason that these books are sent out is for a few different reasons that are all interconnected. First of all, it's about generating buzz for those books. It is an act of publicity. If a booktuber talks about a book in a haul, suddenly people are aware of that book before its initial release date. I think that's mainly to get sales in the first week of publication when it is released. So when people go into a bookshop, it isn't a unknown book to them. They've heard people talking about it before. Or if after watching a booktube video where someone hauls a book, they may be so interested in that book that they actually go and pre-order it. And pre-orders are so important for book releases, because even if that pre-order is made months before the book's release, the sale of that book goes into the figures for the first week, and that really helps a book's chart position. So it's about generating buzz, maybe getting those early sales for the book, and it's not just like bloggers and influencers that books go to. They will go to booksellers, which makes complete sense because when a new product, which is effectively what a book is, it's a product, comes into the store, it's really helpful if the bookseller knows what it is on the day it arrives in there. Also, newspaper or magazine reviewers may receive copies of the book so they can write an early review of it, again, potentially generating buzz and sales. It means things like there will be Goodreads reviews and Amazon reviews and star ratings before the book is released, so people have something to reference when they're deciding whether or not to purchase it. And I want to come back to reviewing proofs because that kind of leads me into the discussion around what you can and can't do with them, because another reason that proofs are used is to get feedback. Maybe things in the book need to change. Depends how far along the process the text is when you receive the proof, how much is going to change. I've received proofs in the past that are very similar to the final edition. Maybe there's just a few commas here and there that are different. But there have also been proofs where the final edition has so many changes to it, even with not even only how a sentence is constructed, but whole plot points have changed. And not only for the text itself, but it could be something like the blurb. If a bunch of reviewers come back from an early copy and they're like, yeah, the blurb made me think this book was a thriller, but it wasn't really like that at all. So I had weird expectations going into this book. I think I would have preferred it if the blurb or what's called the copy was a bit more accurate to what was in the book. So it's things like that which can change. So a proof is not the final copy of the book. There's a lot of things that will change about it. And the idea behind this video was basically prompted by me doing a lot of thinking after a conversation that happened on the booktuber meetup, and I was there, and my dear friend Katie from Books and Things was there, and Harriet was there. So Katie works in publishing and she has done for a few years now. I'm doing a publishing master's, so we're fairly informed on this kind of thing, although her much more than me, especially because she is an editor. We were having this conversation about how it is really frustrating when bookshops are selling proofs, because that's one of the things that you are not allowed to do with proofs. And it led to the most iconic moment of mansplaining that I have ever witnessed. Before I explain that story further, I will show you an example to display what I'm talking about. This is Leanne by Max Porter, and as you can probably tell by the cover design or lack thereof, this is not the final edition of this book. This is a proof copy that I received when I was a bookseller. It depends on the publisher and how they do their proofs, but there are a few things that there will always be on proofs. So there will be that release date, so March 2019. There'll also normally be information on who you contact for publicity inquiries, and there will always be uncorrected proof, not for sale, or quotation. Because it's not the final product, you cannot sell this book. You also can't quote from it because the thing that you quote might be edited and changed, and it's not a true representation of the author's work. And basically, we were talking about how frustrating it is when places that should know better are selling proof editions of books. And this guy was just like, he basically just started complaining about how much he hated publishers, and it was like, you're in a bookshop. Who do you think makes all these books? And he was talking about the book in Katie's hands, and he was like, yeah, nothing actually changes between proofs and final copies. And Katie was just like, I edited this book. Like, literally the book she was holding was one that she worked on and edited, and she knew that there had been significant changes made to that book. And I just never witnessed a more iconic moment of mansplaining than that moment. It was incredible. But yes, anyway, you can't sell proofs because they're not a true representation of the final work. It is super disrespectful to the publisher and the author to sell those books, because it's like, no author wants their book to be out there before it's finished. It's not a true representation of what they and their editor have achieved. Also, the publisher and the author aren't making any money from the sale of that book. Proofs are free. So with proof editions of books, if you have one, you can't be selling it anywhere like eBay or Depop. You can't sell it to secondhand bookstores, although a lot of them will take it off your hands and sell it, and they shouldn't be selling them. Nor can you give it to a charity shop, because while you're not selling that book, they then will, and they're not allowed to do that either. I don't feel as strongly about charity shops selling proof editions of books than I do, like, actual bookstores selling proofs, because I feel like charity shops, the volunteers there, they don't necessarily know. There's no reason why they would be particularly informed about this issue, even though it is printed on the book. But I think secondhand bookstores who know about the book industry should know better than to buy and sell on these books. Final editions of books, by all means, sell them onto a secondhand retailer, sell them online, give them to a charity shop. That's all great stuff to do. That's all, like, making a book reusable. It's making it sustainable. It's bringing that work to more people. But when it's a proof, no. Anyway, if you are someone who has started to receive proofs, or you've got quite a few of them, I have a few pointers of what you can do with them if it's not something you want in your life anymore. Maybe you are living that minimalist lifestyle and you don't keep hold of books that you've read. Maybe it's a book that you didn't like and you don't want it on your shelves anymore. What can you do with them if you can't sell it on or give it away to a charity shop, which is what we usually do with books that we don't want anymore? One of the first things that you can do is give the book to someone else. As long as there's no money being exchanged at any point, it's fine. From someone who's interested in publicity, from that point of view, I would rather it go to another reviewer, so that proof edition is still, like, doing its job. For instance, this book, The Accidental Bad Girl by Maxine Kaplan, Aoife from Fred Weasley Died Laughing gave me this proof edition, which I still haven't read yet, and I feel really bad about. But yeah, this is a proof that she received, and then she then passed it on to me. And following on from that, there's something even more that you can do with that. I'm just going to use this book as an example. This is The Opposite of Always by Justin A. Reynolds. This is a proof that I was sent from Pan Macmillan, and notably why I'm bringing this one up is because this book features people of colour as the protagonists. And I think passing proofs on to own voices reviewers is one way that influencers or bloggers can really help to combat inequality within the publishing and book industry. So if I wanted to pass this book on, and it's something that I've done with books with marginalized characters in before, whether it's to do with race or sexuality or gender, you can make a conscious effort to pass that book onto an Own Voices reviewer, someone that is in some way linked to the protagonist in a way that you are not. When the most popular creators are, for example, more often than not, white, sometimes people of colour reviewers can be forgotten and don't get sent proof editions of books that feature their own experiences. I'm not saying that's an example for this book and its publicity campaign. I'm just saying it's an example of a book I could do that with. Passing on a book with marginalised characters to an Own Voices reviewer really elevates and lifts their platform because people want to hear about new releases. And if because of unconscious discrimination or marginalisation, those reviewers aren't in the position where they have started to receive proofs yet, I think that's a really great thing for you to do if you are someone who does receive a lot of proofs but you aren't part of those marginalised groups that those books reflect. One thing that I've seen a few people do recently that I think is really cool, isn't something that I've done myself, but I think is a great idea, is using proof copies to practice book design and being creative with them. So I've seen people use proof editions to practice doing their own sprayed edges on books, which I think is really cool. Or even doing their own cover designs for books. You know, with this edition of Leanne, it would be so easy to do a cover design straight onto here. Design it on your laptop, print it off, and make a mock-up that you would fold around the front of the book, like you do with mock-ups in the industry. I think that's everything that I do with proofs, or I've seen people do with proofs, but I'm quite in the middle when it comes to receiving early copies of books. You know, I've been receiving some for quite a while, but I don't receive tons. So if you are someone who does receive a lot of proof editions of books, or you work within the publishing industry, and if you have any more thoughts to share on this kind of thing, do leave a comment down below, because I would be fascinated to hear what you do with those books. Obviously, recycling the book is a possibility, but if there's any mixed materials on the cover that may not be able to be recycled, and I think it's always better to reuse rather than recycle. Found this video interesting and informative, do give me a like so I know that you guys are interested in hearing more discussions about some of these things from the publishing industry as I go on my journey of learning more about these things. And as I said, if you have any thoughts about anything I've mentioned, do leave a comment down below. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you in my next video.